Hello, my name is Nick. Let's design some characters. So, I make new characters way too often, enough to the point that I stop making new canvases and just have 30 drawings on one canvas. My favorite way to keep the ideas flowing is to turn that into challenges. So, I bring you the 7-day redesign challenge. Every day you will draw the same character over and over again, randomly changing two aspects and giving them an entirely new outfit. The end goal is for the final design to look extremely different from the original. With that being said, let's get into this. So for my first day, I tried to be relatively simple, a very boring pose, and a really simple outfit. I wasn't trying to do anything crazy, especially because the changes will be very drastic, so I wanted to give myself a simple base. I picked green for the color scheme for no reason whatsoever, but I make a lot of monochromatic characters, and so it really just felt right. Overall, I do like the first day design, even if it is a little bit boring. I think it's a really good starting place for what's to come. So now let's get into the next day. How I decided what attributes to change for each day is spinning a wheel with a bunch of different options on it. So for the first change, we have a hair change, which is just any change to the hairstyle itself. Could be anything. And for the second roll, we got a skin difference. Skin difference really means any little change to the skin that is natural but isn't common, like scars, some freckles, vitiligo. So for her hair, I decided to shorten it up a lot, and I shaved down one of the sides. I was trying to give her this more like comfy, laid back instead of this overtly edgy, but still trying to give her this edge. I was really trying to figure out what she was like as a character and exploring her. And then for skin difference, I gave her scars down her face and neck. Overall, it was not a lot of changes, but I think the changes themselves really alter the character, and already are starting to look so different than what is the original. So now we're already jumping straight into day 3 of the challenge. So for the first thing we roll on day 3 is palette change, which is an entire color palette overhaul. And the second thing we roll is add or remove, which is basically the like freebie slot where I can add or remove anything I think fits. So the first thing I add is I added a second shaved side to her head to give her this mullet situation, and to be honest, I was completely obsessed when I did this mullet. I thought it made her look so cute. I leaned back into that comfier style that was going on before, giving her these leg warmers and a sweater. I also end up adding freckles that I don't know how well they show up on this. And for the palette change, I keep the monochromatic colors because I like monochromatic, but I actually change it from green to blue. Blue, there's no reason. Blue's my favorite color. And overall, I think that she is already looking so different than day 1, even with just the small amount of things. It feels like she's growing up right before my eyes. So, I completely forgot to record the wheel for day 4, so we're gonna go off the honor system here. So, the two things I rolled on this were physical difference and tattoos. Tattoos is really self-explanatory, but physical difference is like a visual disability, so I actually gave her a diabetes pump, I think it's called. I didn't have a reason for this. It's definitely part of the reason why I put her in a swimsuit, so it could be visible on her stomach. I also don't draw swimsuits that often, so I thought it'd be a really cool challenge to try and design one. You know, still kept the blue theme. I also gave her a medical bracelet that would show, like, her information, and for her tattoo, I end up giving her a Big Dipper tattoo on her thigh. really similarly, I have a constellation tattoo on my thigh that is really shitty. But overall, I really like this day. It doesn't change much from the last one. It kind of just looks like the same character in a bathing suit. Now we're on day 5, and this one really threw me in for a loop. The first thing we get is aesthetic overhaul, which is changing the entire aesthetic of the characters. So like that cute grunge I had is completely gone. And the second thing I get is add or remove once again. So originally, I had no ideas for how I was going to do this one. I was actually asking people around, like, oh, what aesthetic should I try and base this off? And I got told vaporwave, and I thought it was really interesting, because I don't feel like you hear a lot about vaporwave outfits. So I went to this really 80s cool thing. For add or remove, I end up actually removing the scar that goes directly over her eye. I thought it was too distracting, and I also added the color pink into the blue. I might have loved the monochromatic, but I think that the pink gives her this pop that she definitely needed, and I was totally obsessed with this. Over all of the days, this is 100% my favorite design of all 7. I think she looks so cool. Unfortunately, no matter how much I was obsessed with the vaporwave design, day 6 threw us in for a loop because I got aesthetic overhaul again, so I have to change her aesthetic. And then we end up rolling skin difference again, so I have to add another difference into her skin. So for the aesthetic, I ended up going with fantasy. I got really back into D&D when I started rolling for this one, especially because we were planning future things for a campaign I'm in, so I was like, oh, I'll make her this cute little knight. I added a diabetic sensor pump back to her design since I didn't include it in the last day, and for the physical skin difference, I gave her some vitiligo. You can see slightly on her face. I don't know if it looks too much like vitiligo, but it could also be like some kind of burn from water or acid. Overall, it didn't matter. I was completely lost when it was coming to this day, and I had no idea, but I do genuinely think that she turned out really cool looking, and I love her cape. And then we finally land on our last day, which is kind of bittersweet. I had a lot of fun doing this challenge, and so for the first thing we roll is hair change, which is almost funny because the first thing that we got was a hair change, so it's also one of the last. And then the next thing we get is an inhuman trait. An inhuman trait is just like anything you add to a character that isn't naturally occurring in humans. So because of the inhuman trait, I went for a very different pose. I gave a back of her body, and I put her in a dress. For hair, I was originally going to give her long hair back, and I decided to put her in this really short ponytail. And for the inhuman trait, I had no idea what I was doing, and eventually we land on some bug wings and a halo. Overall, everything is relatively the same. I'm adding back her scars, her vitiligo, the diabetic sensor. I give her a tattoo on her arm of these vines, and that's partially because I forgot that we landed on hair change and not tattoo because it was so close. And I gave her this really cute gradient to her dress, and I think she's wildly different than anything that came before her, but I was just in love with her design. I think that she is so pretty. She's a little fairy princess, and I cannot see how similar the first and the last day are. I think every day is originally different, and I am so happy that these designs turned out so good. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, I really hope you enjoyed, and if you did, I would really appreciate it if you would like and subscribe. If you have any name suggestions for my lovely lady, please feel free to comment them, and I will pick my favorite. Anyway, see you in the next video. Bye!